started. Welcome and good evening, everyone. My name is Rashad Christie. I am parliamentarian for Urban League of Greater Atlanta Young Professionals. Thank you guys for tuning in this evening. As you know, we are kicking off the election season, and it may seem a little early, but this is a long window that we have, and it's going to be full of events. So this is the first one, and y'all are here from the beginning, so I really appreciate that. Tonight, you're going to hear from three very esteemed panelists who I'll leave it up to our moderator to introduce. But before we get there, the run of the show is going to go like this. We're going to do a panel discussion. Then right after that, we're going to have a Q&A. I urge everyone, if you have questions, there was a sign-up sheet in the registration where you could have dropped questions. If you didn't get an opportunity to put them in there and something comes up while the meeting's going on, feel free to drop it in the chat, and Ariel will take note of it. And once it comes to Q&A session, she will lead off with those questions. And then you can also ask live questions during the Q&A session as well. So if you don't want to drop in the chat, you can always just wait, come off mute, and say what your question is for the panel. After we go through the panel and Q&A session, I will conclude with what's up next on the calendar and what you can look forward to if you're interested in learning further information about leading with NYP and the next upcoming dates we have. So without any further ado, I will kick it off to our moderator, Mr. Rich Lanius.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. I am Rich Lannis. I am one of the newer members here, so I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to do this today. First of all, we want to start off by going ahead and introducing our panelists today. And we have three amazing ones here with a lot of past history within the organizations. We have Dr. Brittany Marshall, Mr. Andre Albritton, hopefully I said that correctly, sir, and Mr. Michael Twum, I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong or not, if you are in here.
Twum.
Boom, all right, perfect. All right, and with Ms. Brittany, Dr. Brittany, with her list of past positions, we have her at National Urban League of YP Executive Vice President, YP Programs Chair, Urban League of Greater Atlanta YP President, YP Vice President, Development Chair, and Personal and Professional Development Chair. As far as Mr. Michael Twum, also a list of past things there as well. We have you as the Board Treasurer of our Urban League Greater Atlanta, YP Treasurer, YP President, and YP Treasurer as well. And all of that sounds correct to you guys? Anything I'm missing there?
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. And then our last one here with Mr. Albritton. He will be another panelist here as well. We will go through a few questions here, answer how you guys like, and I'll ask any follow-up questions that we may have to make this go a little smoother. We will start with you, Doctor. Are you ready?
Sure, have at him.
I like your headphones too.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so Doc, thinking about your past time here at Urban League, how did you first hear about it, and what brought you to the organization?
Sure. So my Urban League journey started back in 2008. I know I look young and useful, but I am a fossil. I was living in Orlando, Florida at the time, working my first job, and was just looking for something to do after work. So I Googled, and the first thing that came up was Metropolitan Urban League Young Professionals, now Central Florida Urban League Young Professionals. And so I went on their website because I was familiar with the Urban League, but I didn't know there was a Young Professionals arm, and paid some dues and also applied to be on the board there immediately because I like to know what's going on. So I jumped right in at the right age of 22, just looking to serve and connect with other young Black folks doing good in the community. So a Google search is what brought me here. And then learning that it's a national network, as I've moved around since then, I've had the opportunity to serve in the Orlando chapter the Dallas Fort Worth chapter, and now here in Atlanta. So that is how I found out about YP.
Thank you. And as far as your trajectory and the different positions you've held within the organization, tell us a little bit about that, of where you started and any future positions that you may be looking forward to.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, joined in the Central Florida chapter, and I was the events and public relations co-chair. And I served in that role for, I think, 2 years. And then when I moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I was in grad school for my doctorate. So didn't really have the time to serve in leadership there, but was a dedicated member, served on the social and cultural committee, was the fake co-chair, and also was able to work on Texas YP weekend while I served in the DFW chapter. And then I came to Atlanta in 2015. And when I got here in Atlanta, still was finishing up my doctorate. And so I was a diligent member of the membership committee for that first year I was in the chapter. And then I decided, well, I have this free time now that I'm not in grad school. So I actually ran for communications chair. It's a three-way race, and I was not selected. And at the time, the vice president, Ashley Neely, needed someone to serve as the marketing co-chair for Dreamcatchers. So she tapped me for that. And then following that, they had a vacancy on the ELT for PPD chair. Mind you, I had never been to a PPD meeting. But you know, they recognized the quality of my work, that at that point I had been a member for some time, and I was tapped to fill that vacancy. So served the remainder of that term, and then ran for a full term as PPD chair. Ended up taking a break for a year, but very passionate about operations. And so when it came time for the next round of elections, I knew I wanted to run for vice president. So had a 4-hour meeting that included hookah and drinks with Michael Twum for us to, talk about what it would look like to serve together as president and VP respectively. And so jumped in there. As you all know, in 2020, the pandemic happened. And, membership got a little dicey. And, when it came time for the next round of elections, it was like, okay, well, I honestly had no intention of ever running for chapter president, but who was going to do it? It was a big question mark. So ended up running for chapter president here in Atlanta, and served for those 2 years. And then, I did have an inkling that I wanted to serve on the national ELT. And so last year they extended their term for an additional year. And Shalon Hollenshed, who was the past chapter president here and was the national president at the time, appointed me to serve for a programs chair for 1 year. And then it came time for national elections. I really enjoyed being vice president. And so I ended up running for executive vice president. So I'm now serving in that role, second in command for the overall organization. And it's been a month and 26 days, but it's been fun so far. So yeah, that's my 16-year journey in this organization and how I've ended up on this car right now.
Nice. Thank you so much. And Michael, we're gonna just jump over to you really quickly.
Yep.
So, same here with you. How did you first hear about the Urban League YP, and tell us, why did you get involved within the organization?
Okay. Before I do that, I want to acknowledge Brittany, because she also didn't mention that even during her time, especially in Atlanta, she was serving. I think that probably gave her an ability to look at what serving as a chair on a national scale would look like before she got appointed. So Brittany, I want you to, you should have added that part in there. Being a part of the national committee, even if you're not necessarily the chair, also gives you an idea of what the serving as a national on a national scale could look like if you ever desire to do that as well. So, but yeah, wanted to point that out first. But okay, so for me, my journey started in 2014. So what, about a year before Brittany came to YP, came to Atlanta. I was a little bit different. I was looking for other things to do around Atlanta because I was mostly just going to work, going to the gym, and hanging out with my friends that I knew, right? But I knew there was more out there as far as service and wanting to be more connected, because more times than not, my hanging out with my friends would be on the weekends. Want to do something during the week as opposed to just going to work, going to the gym, and then going home. So a friend of mine, Christopher Bruce, who I've known since we'll say 2007 ish, 6, 7 ish, was part of at the Atlanta chapter, and I forget how it happened, but he and I ended up hanging out one day, and I ended up telling him, "Hey, I'm looking for other things to do." He said, "Okay, well, there's the Urban League of Greater Atlanta Young Professionals." At the time, I was not a National Urban League, to be honest with you, right? So he connected me with the president at the time, which was Terry Puryear. And one of the conversations that I had with Terry pertained to serving on. I was I hadn't even become a member yet to an extent, but for you, number one. So let's get you in. Am I freezing? Hold on one second.
You froze a few times there.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Not sure what's going on. Anyway, okay. So met with Terry Yance, who was the president at the time, and what he um thank you. But what he said was, this is an organization I think that would be a good fit for you. You would meet a lot of different people. You will grow your desire to be in finance and accounting. All right. Hold on one.
Now I'm looking at the chat, man.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what's going on. This should, let's see. Okay. All right. Hopefully that will be better. Thanks Comcast for that, but appreciate you, Comcast. Anyway, okay. So Terrion said that this would be a good way for you to grow your network, grow your develop good additional friendships, and just be of service to others, right? So from there, I joined in at the end of 2014, and then like I said, he and I had a conversation around being on the on this ELT, because the treasurer at the time was got a promotion, and she had to, if I'm not mistaken, she had to move to another state. So she wasn't going to be able to do her job and also be in Atlanta at the same time. Granted, Zoom and Google Hangouts wasn't necessarily around. I know Hangouts was to an extent, but not Zoom, right? So she couldn't be at two places at the same time. So I thought about it, and I was like, all right, well, I like money, I like working with budgets, I like all that stuff. So why not, right? So went through the election process, got elected to be a treasurer. Did that for the term under Terriance. Liked it so much that I ran it back again under Shalondon. And then from there was conversations around, do I want to do anything else after that? Do I want to be vice president, or do I want to be president? Now, to be honest, I hadn't thought about being president because I was like, it seems like it's going to be a lot of work, and a lot of front facing, and I'm cool with being in the background, doing the work that needs to be done in the background, supporting those that like to be in the front, right? But again, conversation with Christopher Bruce and I think Terriance at the time said, well, why not? Why not you, right? Others have been, I don't want to say afraid, but more they've been more conscious about their decisions. So I had to really think about, is it something I wanted to do for the 2 years after Shalanda's presidency ended, right? So it took me probably about a week to think about it, and I was like, all right, cool. Let me just go and put my hat in the my name in the hat and see what happens. Brittany is correct. Maybe a month before the I think maybe a couple weeks or a month before, like not nominations came out, but more so before the names were mentioned as to who's running for what. But she and I definitely talked about what we wanted Atlanta YP to look like, from a membership perspective, how many members we want to grow it to, how do we want to impact the membership from a professional development perspective, how we want to impact the community, even down to like organizations that we want to partner with, and all the way down to the money we wanted to fundraise for, right? And we also, quite as a kept, we said we wanted to be national at one point or another. Doing them 2 years, we were vying for national chapter of excellence, right? Because Atlanta, at that point, we had national chapter of excellence, but that was like in 2001 or 2002, right? Ever since then, we were Southern Region chapter of the year, but we were always short of reaching national chapter of excellence. So we had that conversation, and we said, all right, cool, let's go ahead and run this. We're gonna see what's gonna happen. We were looking to do everything that we need to do. Now, the team that we had, to be honest, and I think Andre, you were on that team as well, right? Yeah. So Andre was on the team as PPD chair. And when I tell you it was a well-oiled machine, it was a very well-oiled machine, to a point where all I had to do for me was to go out and get money. Um, Brittany as vice president, and I know the vice president role, some people say vice president role is very hard, but it's an integral part of the organization, right? That person has to do a lot of the pushing of the chairs of the rest of the ELT, and also make sure the president stays on task at all points in time, right? So I have given Brittany her flowers before on many occasions, but on this forum as well, I want to make sure that when Brittany was my vice president, that's when we were, before the pandemic, we did everything we were supposed to do. We raised the most money that we ever did at the time, and we got National Chapter of Excellence, President of the Year, was it Member of the Year or VP of the Year, something of that nature.
Southern Region Member of the Year. Thank
Southern
you
Region Member of the Year. Sorry, my bad. Southern Region Member of the Year. And I think we did a clean sweep of almost all the awards for. So that we did everything we're supposed to do, right? So from there, again, pandemic happened, so a lot of things slowed down, but we still were able to do a lot of meaningful things for our community, especially when it came to supporting small businesses. We had a very good fund development chair, as well as advocacy chair, as well as just a team overall, right? Um, after my presidency is when I joined NULYP as the national NULYP board treasurer for about 6 to 8 months or so. And even during that time, I was on the board as a board member, and then I transitioned after my term as NULYP board treasurer, I transitioned to board treasurer of the Urban League of Greater Atlanta. So that was my long transition from 2014 to now.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Switching on over to Mr. Andre. Everyone, Andre's previous roles was personal, excuse me, and professional development parliamentarian and treasurer. So thank you for being on today, Andre. And, same question to you, what brought you to the organization and, how did you hear about YP?
Yeah, so I moved to Atlanta in 2012. And y'all forgive me, my stuff is gonna be way shorter than these two. So just be ready for that. Nice suit, by the way, Mike. I like it. Anyways, so I started back in 2012. I got to Atlanta. I went out to I went to Dallas back in 2016. But before that, I kind of knew a little bit about the YP just from Instagram. So I get out to Dallas for a year. There's no Publixes. It's hot. I'm going back to Atlanta pretty much. And when I get there, I said, okay, I'm gonna finally join an organization. And I saw the YP parties and the events. I was like, okay, I'm kind of pretty big into organizations. Like I was in them inside college. I said, let me go see what they're about. And overall, man, I just kind of fell in, I guess. So I got membership of the year. I think Mike was the one who gave me the award. He was so proud of me, by the way. And really from there, membership of the year, new member of the year, sorry. And then the next year, I was co-chair for PPD, and then officially ran for personal and professional development chair. Took a break for 1 year. And at this time, lead deputy, that was it. Thank you, Brittany. Keep me honest. So after that, took a break for the year, still being active inside of YP, of course. But then Mike hit me up saying they had a vacant spot because someone was leaving due to some, live stuff going on. So I became parliamentarian. And then after that, I took another year off, still active. And then I get a call again, say, hey, the treasurer, we need someone else. I kind of became like a sixth man, I guess, just kind of come out the bench when needed. So for me, I personally loved every second of it. There's definitely some highs and lows as in everything. But yeah, overall, that'd be my trajectory. And the main reason why I joined y'all, like, honestly, I just wanted to meet some new people in the city. That was kind of it. So yeah, ain't nothing major behind it. Just want to meet some new people, young, professional minds, and have a good time outside in Atlanta.
Okay. And I will stay with you here on this question, and then we'll kind of go back. What has been just your bread and butter? What has been your most rewarding experience while you've been serving?
I had a lot of experiences in YP, all good, honestly. So just going through like some random ones because I think that's all good. For me, I got a selfie with Young Jeezy one time. If you guys were there at the dinner, you saw me in my fanboy moment. I got the last selfie with him. No shame in my game. Made it happen. Outside of that, like just going to the conferences were fun. And if I had to be honest, I'll probably say like was becoming an annual thing at this point. I do like a little Christmas get together. So during this Christmas get togethers, I kind of take a look around the room and half of them are YP people. So like a lot of my friends are still from YP. I was best man for one other person in YP. My girlfriend's from YP. So yeah, I'll say it's probably the best part of it is really just the connections, meeting new people. And, even though me, Mike, and Brittany don't talk every single day, I still feel like if I need a place to crash at, they'll let me out sleep on the couch, at least just for 2 nights. And that says a lot in Atlanta, in my opinion. Because, yeah, it's like, it's good to meet nice people and genuine people out there.
Nice. Thank you for that. All right, and we're gonna jump over to you, Michael. I'm sorry, y'all, my big forehead is shining on this camera, but we are all good. But same to you, Michael. What is your most rewarding experience since you've been serving at YP?
Andre, it'll probably be a little bit more than 2 nights, but I know you'll do the same if ever needed. I'll say for me, attending the conferences is probably one of the bigger ones, and more so because That's where you get to meet a lot of the other members and we'll call them officials for the unprofessional chapters. I got a bunch of friends that I've been really cool with. I'm still cool with to this day that I met at conference. We stay in contact, especially during the pandemic. As men, we wanted to make sure we checked on each other at least once a week. So that was very big from that connection. And I also say just building my I think also building my expertise in the field of, I mean, granted, accounting is accounting, but utilizing my skills to further develop them in a YP setting to where I could fail to an extent and know why I failed, but then build it back up has been a great experience for me. But then also, I think also being on the ULGA board as board treasurer has been a great experience as well so far.
Thank you. And on to you, Dr. Brittany.
Alrighty, so I have two. So the first one started when I was PBD chair, laid out this whole plan for an empowerment weekend. So as you recall, I mentioned that I served on the Texas YP Planning Committee when I lived in Dallas, Fort Worth. And so I really wanted to bring that here to Atlanta. So laid it all out, but we needed some support for dream catchers back in 2018. And so again, Shalondon, who was the president at the time, let me know, hey, we won't be able to do your big empowerment weekend conference because, you know, the need is here to support dream catchers, and can your committee do that? Okay, cool. Was disappointed, but fast forward to running for president. So as Mike mentioned, as you get deeper in the movement, you get to go to conferences and meet people. And so those of you who are familiar with our immediate past Southern RVP Thurman, TJ, I'll call him TJ today. TJ, I met him actually back in 2018. We were both like lowly committee chairs. And, at the time he decided he was going to run for RVP and like contacted me to, get, my support and blessing. I told him, yo, if you're going to do this, like, we need a regional conference. And I want Atlanta to host this regional conference. I got a whole plan. Like, let's make this happen. So, we both got into our respective roles as president, RVP. I harassed him the whole time he was RVP, just for fun. But, we were able to successfully put in the bid to host the inaugural in-person Southern Region Conference here in Atlanta back in 2023. So that was kind of like a full circle moment, if you will, for me serving in this chapter to be able to bring that here and just, to put on that conference for a region that, I call home. And my second is Brianna Terrell. So those of you who've been here for a while, you may remember that when I was president, there was an ad hoc committee, health and quality of life. And so Brianna applied to serve as chair of that committee. Did not know her, but had a very impressive application. And at the time, we were kind of floating the idea around co-chairs. So we kind of used HQL as a test run for, okay, how do co-chairs work in this chapter? And so Brianna was young. She was like 22, our resident Gen Z at the time. And so put her in that role and she excelled. And so after she served in that role for the year, she told me, hey, I'm about to move back home to Memphis. I was punching air because I was like, oh, the chapter's about to lose someone good. But, she has moved to Memphis. That was in 2022 and has flourished because I also had recommended her for a national committee. So she served on programs, but went to Memphis, blew up, came VP, and now is currently the chapter president. she had called me right before she was deciding to run for chapter president. And I don't know, I just feel so touched that, like, you know, I gave somebody an opportunity to like serve on this board here in Atlanta, and they were able to take their talents elsewhere. And in like a few short years is now like leading a chapter. So those are my two like proudest moments in YP.
Thank you, thank you. And I'll stick here with you, Brittany. Excuse me. If you can, you know, share how YP has helped you in any way in your personal life or professional life.
Sure. So, you know, this is a lot of work, this is unpaid work, but the skills you get serving as a leader definitely are transferable to your job. I think I have not had a job interview since I've been involved in ULGA-YP where I haven't like used this as an example around like delegating tasks, around like managing people, around like hard conversations when, you know, we've had to remove some people from this ELT. So, you know, those skills that I've learned here definitely have been able to translate like in my job. And then like everyone has mentioned, like just the friendships, like I'm still in touch with people from Orlando. Like when I became chapter president, they was like, it's about time, we've been waiting. I still talk to people in Dallas. I talk to people in other chapters like literally every day. So just being able to like, you know, build those like skills in my job, but then like those like people that are now like very integral to my life. That's how this organization has helped me personally.
And can you give me the name again of the young lady that's in Memphis now?
Brianna Terrell.
Brianna Terrell, okay. And just a quick question here for you, just of how you helped and elevated Brianna to get into that position. Do you feel that other people in YP have helped you in the same way, you know, climb up to where you've been?
Yes, absolutely. So my first chapter president, Karen Anderson, when we were in Orlando, has served as a role model and mentor to me. She later became the Southern RVP. And so that was how I like knew like, oh, like about like these national roles and what it means to like serve nationally. And even when we had the Southern Region Conference like 2 years ago now, I called her because she moved to Atlanta. I called her and asked her, can you come speak? And she did. And they, again, full circle moments for me. And again, even when I ran for EVP, I contacted her. I did the Emerging Leaders Program through NUL, and like my roommate for that program was the Western RVP at the time. I contacted her when I ran for EVP. So again, just being able to like lean into like those people who've come before me and have them pull me up is something that like I don't take for granted.
Thank you for answering that. All right, and Michael, we're gonna jump over to you.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, and if you can share any, you know, any way that YP has helped you in your personal or professional life.
Yeah, so it's kind of one and the same in all honesty. So back in 2017, I lost my job when I was working at the Coca-Cola company. You know, due to restructuring, that's normally how it goes. But personally, it helped me YP helped me because I decided to put a lot of my time and effort into the organization because, you know, at the time I wasn't working, right? So I needed something to focus on, and I'm glad that I had YP there. Otherwise, I probably would have lost my mind, be honest with you, right? So personally, it helped me from a mental therapeutic perspective to make sure that I was being intentional about taking that extra time, and focusing on something that is meaningful. And I think that helped me to where I was able to, as I make sure I was involved in the different committees. It gave me, I think, more exposure to the membership, which I think in essence kind of helped me to understand that why I wanted to be, after thinking about a week, why I wanted to be president, right? Because there were a lot of people that knew me, that knew the type of person that I was based on how I dedicated that time to the organization and to the individuals, really getting to know them on a personal level and all of that, right? Was kind of what I took into being president of the organization. Professionally, though, it helped because a good friend of mine, Karen Young, who at the time was working at the Atlanta Housing Authority, randomly called me one day as I was looking to apply for jobs and everything, just to see how I was doing. And I mentioned I lost my job at Coke. I've been looking, and she was like, "Dang, you should have called me earlier. Like, there's something available at Atlanta Housing, right?" So, sent her my resume that same day. And then I think I got a call maybe a week or two afterwards. Did 2 interviews, which they were, from her perspective, she said they were more just formality interviews. And I got the job maybe a week later, right? So I didn't necessarily have to go the same route of applying. Sent her my resume. She sent it to HR, who got it to the accounting the director of finance hands, and got the job within probably a month after that, right? So these are things that can occur if you're willing to. Again, you put a lot of effort into the organization, you're going to get out what you put in, right? And that's part of what you get out of it is that network of individuals who are in these places that you may not necessarily know where they work, but push come to shove, if there's an opportunity somewhere that you're looking at and you find out that that particular person that you actually know, right? You can't just run up on somebody that you haven't necessarily made an effort to get to know. Like, you got to be very personable with everybody in the organization. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of fake, right? And I know for us, we don't want to look fake in front of with other individuals. So take time to get to know them, and these are things that you can get out of it. Not necessarily say that you need to do that, but it's a byproduct of why this organization has been around, especially Atlanta, for what has it been 120 some years. So yeah, you just make sure you get out of the organization.
Thank you so much, man. All right, and then moving on over to Andre. Andre, same question there for you. What has YP done for you, personally and professionally?
Yeah. So I'll say personally, I kind of cover on the others. So I won't repeat too many of those, but again, the friendships have been amazing. But professionally, so for those who don't know, I used to do like financial influencing. So kind of having speech engagements here and there. I did a podcast as well. And through YP as a personal and professional development chair, my job was kind of to like find new locations, find food. And if you ask the past presidents, they'll laugh at me, but they say I spent too much on the food items. Ongoing joke. But, with like making those connections I probably would have never seen before, it helped as an entrepreneur on the other side. I see Brittany's comment. But yeah, like finding these locations, that's what I did. My first in-person financial conference was in one of the locations that was in a YP meeting. So it's like, to me, YP is a great stepping stone in the sense if you're new to Atlanta, or even if you've been here, you meet a lot of good connections, and you can see a lot of different places that you probably would have never guessed even existed. So, I mean, definitely that. And also, I used to do financial coaching, and some of them YP were my clients. So a lot of them even shared my information with everyone else through the podcast, listeners, supporters. So, I mean, that one was really good for me, just kind of have that backing. And one thing I mentioned too, Mike, you touch on this too, but it's like NYP, you really never know who's honestly there, because this is some people that you would have never guessed the trajectory and how they've been as far as their works lifestyle, who they know in Atlanta. So just as an example, I know it was like maybe last year or two, Someone's asking me about Clark Atlanta and getting to the teaching program. I just happen to know the financial person over there because I was teaching financial classes. So I said, yeah, I'll send you the resume. Sent it to them. They didn't have any openings, but quick turnaround time. Like just being able to even get that answer, know that your resume is even being seen. Again, I think the networking behind YP is just something that is truly still untapped. And I think when it comes to this, you have to keep going. Because I think if you go in there, you expect to get it all done within 2 weeks, 2 months, and expect someone to trust you, and it probably ain't gonna happen. So yeah, I think as Mike said too, you get what you put into it. So I think if you come in there looking for business connections, you're gonna find them because they are there. If you come in there looking for friendships, you'll find that too because that's in there too. You just have to be really direct with what you want to get out of it.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I'll start you off with our last questions here. So last question to you, Andre, would be, what advice would you have for anyone seeking leadership roles within YP?
All right, so I know Brittany and Mike are going to touch on a lot of good points. So I'm going to touch on the one that we might not touch on. Got to be easygoing. So there's always going to be drama on the board. You have a bunch of chefs inside the kitchen. It's going to happen. I think during my terms, either A, I was oblivious to the drama, or B, if it did happen, it just went right over my head. But I hear the stories later on. So yeah, I just think, when you walk into these positions, two important things to know. One, you're going to deal with a lot of different personalities. Doesn't mean someone's trying to get at you bad, just means they have a different personality. That's it. And then the second one I'll mention is time. Yes, sage advice. That's what I do. I give sage advice all the time. But when it comes to these positions, it's kind of nice to be in the spotlight, so to say, give the announcements, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes. And especially from like the past boards I've been a part of, I think that's what gets a lot of people by surprise is just, oh, there actually is work behind this, behind the free food and the events and the fun. So be ready for that portion. And last but not least, promise last one, have your selfish reasons when you join the board. We're all here to help everyone else, but you should still have something that you want to get out of this board as well. Otherwise, there's going to be no real anchor for you to stay on the board. So you want to make sure you have some type of selfish reason. That's it for me.
Thank you, sir. And Michael, switching on over to you.
Yeah. So I'll slightly piggyback off of Andre. Understand your why you want to be part of the organization, number one, and why do you want to be in leadership, number two. All right. This, like Brittany said, this is a nonprofit organization. It's a volunteer organization, which is anchored on service, right? So if part of your selfish reason isn't about serving others, then I don't know if this is the organization for you, right? You can have your selfish reason as to you want to build your network, you want to develop your personal professional skills, whatever that may be. But I think part of it also has to be about serving others as well, right? Because to Andre's point, as you grow into this organization and as you get on these boards, you're going to understand that you're going to be put to work. Your committee that you're leading, or you're part of the EOT or the EC, you're going to work, right? Like it's kind of all hands on deck, so to speak. I would also say understanding, taking a real look at the positions and determining what is whether something is a good fit for you, or do you see yourself do you see that you can expand your mindset and your horizon into whatever new role that you're looking for, right? So if you're looking to be if you, let's say your skill set is already in marketing, do you think that you could expand it to advocacy, or to as a fund development chair or something of that nature, right? If you already served in one of those committee chair roles, do you think that you can expand your horizon into policies and procedures, which by being a parliamentarian? Do you see yourself being vice president? If so, can you, actually lead a bunch of different, as Andre put it, chefs in the kitchen, right? Because everybody personality is different. You gonna come across something that you're gonna be like, dang, really? Like this is you a lot right now. But do you think that you can manage those personalities, right? If you're looking to be president, do you think that you can number one, help fundraise? Do you have ability to fundraise? Do you have an ability to speak in front of a couple of hundred people? Do you have the ability? Do you think you have the ability to reach out to corporations on behalf of your organization when it comes to helping one of your chairs secure a venue for an event or something of that nature, right? So those are my responses to your question.
Thank you, sir. And last but not least, Dr. Brittany.
Yeah, I would say be prepared to really like flex your teamwork muscles. You know, we used to get a lot of flack around like, oh, the ELT is cliquish. They come, they only talk to each other, they don't talk to us. But like that is like extremely important to have that board cohesion. I wholeheartedly don't think we would have actually won National Chapter of Excellence if like we didn't like do dedicated team building, really get to know one another, so that we could come together and like work well with one another. And I can't even think of out of the 6 or 7 ELTs that I've been on, like one board that like I don't have a close friend that I'm not still in contact with as a result of us serving together on the ELT. Going back to Ashley Neely, I'm currently helping plan her baby shower. I'm thinking about Sharina, who was Secretary of Social and Cultural Chair. She has since moved to Detroit, but she sent me a picture where she has like ULGA-YP shrine in her house. But on that shrine is a picture of me and her together. So, you know, again, come in ready to work, but come in ready to work with others and ready to like build relationships so that we can move this chapter in the work forward.
Thank you so much. And that will conduct what I have for you. I will go ahead and introduce Ariel on. She's going to be doing our Q&A. So this floor is yours now.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So when you registered, there was a question asked if you had any questions. So at this time, I am going to do the question and answers. We did receive a few. So I'm going to start off with this one. And this one is probably going to be addressed to the former presidents because this question is asking, what do you look for in an emerging leader? So Michael, if you could answer that, please.
Okay, so one thing I look for in an emerging leader, and I think Andre and Brittany kind of hit on it, is collaboration. Are you somebody that values collaborating with others, right? Because as Brittany stated, the team that we had when we won National Chapter of Excellence, we were there to help each other out, regardless of committee, regardless of the need or whatever the case may be. We helped each other out, right? Are you also somebody that can look at things from a different lens and provide a different perspective? I think one person that comes to mind is Corey Jones and his innovative thinking about how to grow the organization, innovative technology that we can add to reach different parts of the individuals in the organization, inside and outside of the organization. And he was always a person that could help us look at things differently, right? Because the innovation as we continue to grow is going to be a necessary thing for organization to continue to be a solid foundation in the Atlanta area, right? Or really metro Atlanta area to an extent. So I think those are two things that I look at for in regards to emerging leader in the organization.
Dr. Brittany?
Sure. I'll say for me, like, do you have like the energy to serve like where the organization currently is and where it needs to go? And I'm gonna actually use our president, President Jordan, as an example here. You know, when I came into this role, like we were in maybe out of the pandemic, it was really like, wow. But you know, like I mentioned, we had taken a hit for our membership. So I knew we were gonna need someone that's gonna corral the people coming up after me. And so like a month into my presidency, I got an invitation to go to a Ed Choice symposium in New Orleans. I was like, well, education ain't really my thing. And naturally you would think, oh, I can send my VP. No, didn't even tell my VP. I went to Crystal Jordan because I knew that she was going to be the future of the chapter. And I sent her to New Orleans. So I gave up a free trip from NUL and sent Crystal to New Orleans to position her in order to be able to lead. So I think it's about like, again, like that visioning, like what can this person bring to like what our chapter needs right now in the future?
All right, thank you. I am going to move on to this next question. So it is asking, how much time weekly did you dedicate to your role? So Andre, I know you were a chair, co-chair, and you did different roles with YP. So can you tell us how much time did you spend?
I think it would depend on where the chapter is moving to next, honestly, because that really depend on that portion. But just as an example, for my PPD chair, I wish I could tell you how many hours I spent, but if I had to give a rough range, I would say at least 8 to 12 a week. So with that, you have to keep in mind there'll be 2 meetings. So you have your committee meeting. You also have your regular ELT meeting. And if you're on the board, you have an ELT meeting and an EC meeting. So that's an easy hour and a half each week there. And then you have to think as well the time it takes to planning outside of it. So this probably brings up to a really good point. Make sure you guys delegate when you get to these positions, because I think that's one thing I'm very happy to see that the chapter did, was we started really implementing the lead deputies, as Brittany said, and finding help for the position. So, you know, it doesn't have to be too much time. But overall, I'm gonna say an average 8 to 12 hours a week is something you should just kind of expect. And if it's not, then hey, even better. But expect 8 to 12, I say.
Michael, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. So to Andre's point, it kind of varies. When I was treasurer, probably 5 to 10 hours. As president, having to have calls with Nancy and the board on a monthly basis, EC meetings, ELT meetings, calls with potential sponsors, 20 plus hours as the president. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll say 20 plus hours. I'm gonna use 20 plus because that the president's role is very different than more of a committee chair, planning events and things of that nature. You're going to be in front of uh directors, presidents, CEOs of different organizations, looking to talk about sponsorships of the organization. So there's some planning involved in that to make sure that the sponsorship package looks good, that you have your talking points. You may even have to speak in front of, forgot about the general body meetings. That is another couple of hours. And if you're, depending on, your level of being president, you're either going to be super involved or they're just going to ask you to show up, right? So I think as president, I just was asked to show up, have my talking points and what to say my words and then go eat. So yeah, I'll say about 20 plus hours in general for the as a president. Treasurer, 5 to 10.
And I see Dr. Marshall, Brittany added in the chat. Also, if you're on the ELT, you have to support our partners by attending their events as well. So did you want to add anything else to that, Dr. Brittany? Just about the time.
No, but yeah, no, just like accounting for that, because again, we also want to be visible in the city. Yes, that is the primary role of the president, but like as an ELT member, you also are an ambassador of our organization. And so just be prepared to like, even on your free time, be talking about the urban league.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so this one is going to be a two-part question. So the question was, how did you keep your committee members engaged? And then also, how did you partner across committees, like with different other chairs and co-chairs? And let's start with Andre.
Okay, so it's probably not the best answer, but it's the answer. For me, you bring a good bottle sometimes. So yeah, make the thing a little bit fun. Make a lot of jokes along the way, talk to people. I mean, my PPD committee meetings will probably be at least 50% horsing around and 50% work. Because at the end of the day, people are coming there to talk to each other, network with each other, not just like 100% work. So it's kind of like a mix between the two. So that's been good for me to keep them involved, like that portion. And what's the last part to the question?
How did you partner across committees?
During my time, it was just kind of, I would say that some meetings is just lined up for another committee or the president. Yep, there we go. So there's a thing, you guys probably heard it already, when you are tapped, sometimes it's like a voluntold. So say, hey, voluntold, this committee wants to do something with you guys. And, like it's still your committee, so you can still make a decision. But oftentimes with the presidency, they have the best intentions out. So it tends to fit well enough, honestly. And I'll also add on networking with other committees too. See how you guys can align on one thing. That is probably the best advice, because when we're on the board, we see a lot of each other. So yeah, we're talking and you hear about other people's events that they have plans. Like, hey, let's combine the budgets together. Let's see if we can do that. Combine resources, make it easier on ourselves. So yeah, I'm definitely networking and being voluntold.
And so I'll jump in here really quickly. So when I was PPD chair, I didn't plan no GBMs other than I got the venue and the food. But like I had a calendar that we laid out at the beginning of the year and said, this month we want to talk about this topic. I found 2 people who are passionate about that. Y'all go find the speakers, the discussion questions, and y'all just tell me what it's going to be. So I literally would show up to the GBMs, move around the room, put that food out, come up there, say, hey, on the PPD chair, and I'll go sit in the back and drink the wine because I was just talking at that point. So I definitely leaned into delegation. And then in terms of like working across committees, my board bestie at the time, shout out to Keith Bell, was the advocacy chair. And, Christy, who was the VP, had this idea for State of Young ATL. And so we did not have ourselves together for the April GBM on PPD. And so I was like, hey, how about y'all just use this GBM slot and do this State of Young ATL thing? And we partnered together because I was just randomly at the advocacy committee. I don't know why I was there. But yeah, so then that turned into like our committees collaborating with one another on State of Young ATL, which is still going strong. That was 8 years ago. I don't know. And now it's become a standalone event. But yeah, it was kind of by happenstance. So I think like just showing up to other people's committee meetings, listening to what they're saying in the ELT meetings, and say, hey, like, again, like, let's just work smarter, not harder.
Thank you. And Michael.
So I never had the pleasure of being over committees to an extent. I mean, president you are, but the way I worked for my ELT was, to Andre's point, we went to go grab a drink, just talk about what you got going on, and is there any way I can help you accomplish whatever goals that you need, right? Granted, manages all of that, but I also want to make sure that as the president, I was providing support to the team any way I could, right? So if Brittany needed help with 1 or 2 of the committee chairs, then I stepped in, said, hey, let's go grab a drink, let's talk about what you got going on. If there's a need for you to kind of there's something that let's say got lost in translation. Let me help you kind of make that bridge that gap, right? So having a drink, getting some food, Atlanta, we love hookah, good, bad, or indifferent. That will help. That helps to make things a little bit easier, right? Because you're not in a more professional setting, you're in a personal setting, bringing some professional aspects to it, but it's more relaxed though. So people have the ability when they're relaxed to kind of let their guard down, and they're like, all right, cool. This is what I need. This is the help I need from you. How can you help, right? And I'll take a step forward as far as bridging the working across different committees to more so working across different organizations, right? So you take that same approach to an extent, and you have those conversations with the various organizations. Which I don't know if you guys know, some of the major ones in the city are us, Emerge 100, NAP, and what's the other one? I can't remember the other one. MAP, I think it's MAP, right? So so being able to have those conversations to build it to where you can partner on different events. Like for example, during the pandemic, I know Brittany remembers this, and so does Andre. We had the presidential debate watch party, right? That was a collaboration amongst our organization and the Emerge 100. We had it at I can't remember the church's name, but they had a big screen outside. We were able to use that to watch to do a what you call it, drive-in themed watch party with the food truck, with a radio station that provided the music and us the platform to kind of speak out about the president's debate and voting and things of that nature, right? So that is how you can build not just internally, right? But you got to also look at it externally as well, because while all organizations are looking to make themselves known, make themselves big in the city, you also have to make sure that the organizations that you are working with, they have the same, they are trying to do the same. But if there's certain things that you can align on, that will help to ensure that you continue to grow while they continue to grow in different areas as well.
All right. Thank you all so very much. So this does conclude the question and answer part of this session. So thanks also to those that submitted questions. So at this time, I am going to pass it back to Rashad, our parliamentarian, for the closing remarks.
Yes, thank you. First, can we give everyone a virtual hand to all these panelists? Shared great insight, great information, sharing their personal journeys and things that little tidbits. We got some good sage advice in there as well. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to do this and kind of enrich our communities, because it's not what we've done, it's how we can continue to grow and move forward and build upon that. So I really appreciate y'all's time. I know we're over time, so I won't talk too long, but nomination season is next. So election season kicked off today. Nominations will start Monday. Make sure you guys pay attention to those newsletters you get in your inbox. Check your, come to the GBM as well if you have any more information you want to get. Reach out to me personally. I can give you any information you need, but nominations will go live on Monday, and those will close on March 16th. So March 2nd to March 16th. Those are the immediate dates coming out, and for the full calendar, please pay attention to your inboxes and also come out to the GBM. We'll have a lot more information for you there. With that said, I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your evenings, and of course, stay in love with y'all people, stay loved up. Enjoy the warm weather and get some good rest tonight. Have a good night.